All right, we are live. Okay, I just want to do one thing. Okay. All right, everybody. This is Tiffany with Rock Bottom Wellness, and today I've got, for the Rock Bottom Conversations, I've got my guest, Carla Mertz of Iron Shoe Farms. And here's just a little introduction to her to tell us about what she does and how she can help us all be healthier. So Carla is the owner of Iron Shoe Farm, located in Princeton, Minnesota. The farm is nestled on 63 acres, just a short distance from the Twin Cities. Iron Shoe Farm is a woman-owned, Minnesota-grown farm, priding ourselves on locally raised Hereford beef cattle, chickens, heritage, and Mangalese pork, Muscovy duck, and our ever-popular Mighty microgreens and vegetable produce. They always pride themselves on providing a food source to the local communities in Sherburne, Wright, Anoka, Hennepin, and Mille Lacs counties. So welcome, Carla.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is gonna be fun to talk about. This is something you're the person who I talk to regularly or talk about regularly with the people that I meet with when they're trying to make improvements in their health and trying to eat better. They don't know where to go to get good quality foods, especially animal products. So tell us how you got started doing what you do now.
So we bought our farm about 5 years ago, but before that, my husband and I really wanted a hobby farm. That was something that we talked about early on when we first met. And her daughter was really sick when she was 3 years old. She was actually hospitalized because she had rotavirus. And rotavirus is a gastrointestinal infection. And we literally had to train her body how to eat whole foods pretty much all over again. And I had the doctor tell me, eliminate soy, eliminate gluten, anything that had that soy-based product in it. And it literally was horrific. I went through my whole pantry. Every label I read on all the box prepared foods that we were used to eating had soy in it. And I literally had about 90% of my pantry on my counter. And I had a moment of going, oh my gosh, what do we do? And at that point, we were going to Cub, we were going to Walmart, we were shopping locally for groceries, just like, most Americans do. And I was having a hard time because we were in Elk River. There really wasn't a co-op around. There wasn't really this movement of sourcing locally at that time. And this was 15 years ago. So I started shopping at Coburn's, and we had to do pureed foods. We were eating naturally, and we were spending a lot of money. And we were buying premium meat. We were making sure that it was the best that they had. It was grass-fed with the label, and sourcing locally then. And my husband and I just looked at each other and we're like, I think we need to start looking for our own property and really being self-sustaining. That was our method to the madness at that point in time, about 5 years ago. And we looked almost 2 years for property, and we came upon what we're on now. And it's a beautiful place, and we feel very blessed that we're here. We actually were just going to raise for ourselves. So we were going to, maybe do 1 or 2 hogs a year, some chicken. We started with egg layers. That was the first thing, and just kind of snowballed from there. But what really was a turning point for us was talking with my chiropractor and meeting with her and having the discussion of, what are you doing? What are you up to? And like, we have a farm now. We're raising our own beef cattle, and we have chickens on the property. And she's like, well, I'd like a quarter beef. I'd like eggs. And I got home and I told my husband, I'm like, I think we have to turn this into a business. So we're actually selling to the community. And I then went to a local networking group, met a lot of local business owners. And that's what kind of got us really rolling, is being able to have that local food source and being able to provide it and really making a huge impact on people's lives, because they really want to source local.
Right.
And know where their food is coming from. And that was a big thing for us too. We want to know what our animals are eating, what they're consuming, how we source that food and even keeping those food sources local. So we kind of have this big 360 movement of everything we get is as local as we can possibly get it as well.
Right.
So that's really important.
And that's the thing, like the self-sustainability that you're talking about, you know, that you're involving. It's not just you providing food to local people, it's providing, you know, like it's an exchange. And so we'll talk about that more too. And it's just super cool that's part of what you guys do, that's really important. But so on a side note, not necessarily about the food and the quality of food that you put out there for the community. I love the story about how you came up with the name of your farm. Like, I don't know, I think that's just cool. Can you explain it?
We came up with the name. We were really struggling with the name, what to name the farm. And I wanted to find something that maybe had roots to, we didn't want to do the Mertz family farm because it just didn't seem to roll off the tongue very easily. So we were kind of struggling with that. And then Dave was like, well, what about broken fences? And it was like, so all the animals will get out? I don't think so. So then we kind of sat back, and with my roots in ranching, I thought I would do something more with what the ranch name was. It was the Diamond 8 Ranch, which kind of led to an infinity and thinking about horses and things like that. So that was kind of on the mindset. But we started actually building our chicken coop. And we had to build it twice. It actually was erected, and then a big storm came through and knocked the whole thing off its foundation. And I was leaving for Canada, and Dave had to build the whole thing all over. And we started finding horseshoes. So he would, you know, pound a fence post in, and we'd hit metal. And a couple days later, we found another one out in the yard. And so we have horseshoes kind of all over, and I found another one this last summer. So it's just something that rolled off the tongue really well. Right. We're like, well, what about Iron Shoe Farm? And so it kind of started from there. And so our logo actually has the outline of the first horseshoe we found out on the property.
That's so cool.
And then it was kind of funny. We had a hoedown here, and the previous owner's children that lived here from the 30s to the 80s had said, well, that's interesting. We only had a Shetland pony out there. We didn't have any horses. So it led me to believe that at some point in time, the land must have been worked and they had draft horses out here at some point.
I was going to say, because those aren't Shetland pony shoes.
No, they're too large.
Yes.
So that's how we came up on our name.
That's really cool. Yeah. It works, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about, you know, the products that you provide. What is it that you grow and raise and provide to the community?
So we raise Hereford beef cattle, prime grade. That's really important for us. We love the demeanor of the animal. They're very calm. We can go out there anytime with them and touch them and pet them, and they're very low key. And we decided to raise those 3 years ago. And we work actually locally through Lawrence Herefords to buy our breeding stock. So we work with them on our breeding program, which is really important for us, again, that locally sourcing and helping another family farmer out. So we raise Herefords. We also raise heritage hogs. And that means we raise Mangalistas. Mangalistas actually were sourced through Hungary and then brought over to the States. And then we crossbreed them with either another heritage breed called a red wattle. We've had Yorkshire hogs out here. So we're trying to keep those heritage breeds alive. Some of them are starting to decline. And so we just want to keep that genetic pool moving forward. And they're a little bit smaller scale, which is nice for us when we're pasture raising, to have a little bit more of them out here in a smaller area. And then we raise, right now we're raising a Cornish cross chicken, which all Minnesotas know by Golden Plump. So that's the most recognized meat bird in the industry. There's actually 3 different strains that we can order from our hatchery. And we just chose to go with the strain that's most popular and what we're used to consuming. So we do raise, it's called the 780. So it has a number more than a name. Okay. And they're, for us, for the quantity that we do, it's the best suited for our property and right now what we're growing. And then we raise Muscovy ducks. So Muscovy ducks are very similar to the taste and flavor of a pork tenderloin. They're a little bit darker meat. They're more tender, and restaurants love them. So with our restaurant business, it was really important for us to have a secondary animal. And I'll attest to, I never knew what they were until I had a customer come to us and asked if we raised duck. Like, no.
Okay.
But we can try to. And she said, if you do, get Muscovy. And so I was like, well, what are they? Well, they're more of a land duck. They're in the goose family more than they are in the duck family because they roost in trees. So we raise about 100 of those a year. And just for that one customer, we just started raising and producing for her because she was going out to New York and grew up in Central America. And she just wanted to have that same product that she was used to eating. And then we have about 80 to 90 egg layers. We have various breeds of those.
Are they still on strike?
So they are still on strike.
Oh, really?
It's this nasty cold snap that we had early does not agree with any of them. So we're very limited in stock, but I hope to, we're actually replenishing our flock here in the next few weeks. So we'll have eggs again.
Okay.
Yeah, we're getting mature chickens. So that's the price that we'll pay to have eggs for everybody.
Okay.
So, I know a lot of customers are like, when are you ever going to get them back? So, and that's a mainstay for us. That's what we started selling. So we have to get those back. But yeah.
Okay. So then do we cover all that so the beef, the pork, the
chicken,
duck, and the chicken?
Yep. And then we also grow microgreens. So our microgreen business is one that we just came upon on chance. I went to a restaurant called the Northeast Social in Minneapolis, and I had a pea shoot microgreen salad with Muscovy duck, and they were phenomenal. So I came home and told my husband about it, and he goes, "You're crazy. What do we want to grow those for?" And it's just one more thing we have to worry about. And he said, "Well, let's just try it." And so he was looking online and doing some research, and he's like, "We could probably do really well selling these." And there's very few microgreen growers in Minnesota at a commercial level. And so we decided, well, we'll provide something that's more of a niche market. It kind of gets us into a different level of farming, and it really helps with people who have a plant-based diet or are just looking for another protein source. So we started with 3 10 by 20 trays of flat, a garden flat, and I brought them into a networking group, and I sold out of all of them right away that first day. And I decided, I think we're onto something. Yeah. And so now we grow, we have about 75 trays that go out during the winter season right now. During the summer months, we're up to about 100 pounds of it a week. That's crazy. And we're consistently growing. We're turning product around every 7 to 10 days. So it's a very fast, quick producing product,
that's what's right behind you.
Yeah. So I don't know if you can see, but that's one of my grow shelves. We have 4 of those, which we've just doubled our growing within the last month. So it's been a great addition to our farm. And then in the summer months, we do edible flowers. That's another thing for us that makes us a little different. And then we'll be doing things like turnip greens, salad greens, and some other root vegetables during the summer.
Yeah, those microgreens, I know when you brought them to I don't know if it was the first time that you brought them was when I tried them the first time, but I think you had brought the sunflower microgreens, and those are my favorite. I love the spicy mix too. And what's so nice about them is like you just can grab a handful and have it as a little snack or add it to whatever kind of salad or have it like a garnish on, if you're making a nice meal. Right. And that's what's the draw to some of these restaurants too. So, there's their microgreens. I have posted about them on my page and my group before. They're high nutrients in this tiny little plant, and protein, like you said, that you wouldn't really think comes. There's protein in plants, but not, a ton compared to,
Right.
chicken or whatever. So
Right.
having the microgreens as part of, adding the protein, more greens to your diet, more vitamins, minerals, antioxidants is really important. But like the restaurant business, I'm assuming they don't serve a whole microgreen salad. It might be combined with stuff, and it's a nice presentation. So can you tell us about your restaurant connections and what's going on with that?
So we, our first restaurant that we started doing business with was Rockwoods in Otsego. And they're really great. They love everything that we're doing out here. They buy our hogs, they purchase chicken from us. But our intro to them was microgreens, and they use them mainly as a garnish. And when they're doing their plating, they'll just sprinkle them over the top, and it just adds a whole new intensity level to the flavor. So if you think of arugula, you put that arugula leaf underneath, and then you have your steak on top of it. Well, then they're going to splash the arugula on top just to intensify the flavor. And so a lot of times, people kind of scrape that off and push it to the side, but it's like, you actually want that. That's really good for you. Not only does it taste good, but it's got the health benefits behind it too. So we're trying really hard to kind of educate the public that these are meant for consumption. There's a purpose behind them. And with the restaurants, they're even reaching out now and doing a lot more, kind of clumping them all together and making a little side salad out of them. And it's all about presentation for them. So of course they love the vibrancy and the color behind a lot of them. Some of them are, beets, for example, they're very fuchsia colored and they bring a lot of beauty to the plate. There's marigold, which tastes like tangerine. So they just love the flavor intensity that it brings to the plate, and it looks cool too.
Yeah, they're so good. Those are fun. And then so what else do you do or how else do you provide your restaurant? There's lots of local restaurants, if you want to talk about that. And I hear that there's some new opportunities that you just kind of.
Yeah, we hired on our first employee. I met her actually through Tipsy Chicken. So she has started working with us and really helping us build our restaurant business. And so in the last 3 months, we've tripled our restaurant business, which has been really exciting.
Wow.
And
really
so
good.
we supply to Rockwoods and then Main Street Farmer Eatery. We have a relationship with Tipsy Chicken. We've sold to Chow Grill with microgreens. So we're really trying to keep that local presence, which is really important to us and those restaurants because they want to keep it local as well, as much as they can. And then now we're selling to Tilia down in Minneapolis, Interlochen Country Club, Wood Hill Country Club. We're also at the West End, downtown Minneapolis, Lars, Lush in Northeast Minneapolis. The list goes on and on.
Oh,
so
yeah, you'll be branching out quite a bit.
Yeah. So, and it's nice. We do get people that we're on the Minnesota chef pages and we're connected with Minnesota Grown. And so sometimes we'll get those chefs reaching out and saying, hey, I heard about your product or I saw through Instagram. And so we're really big on promoting those restaurants just as much as promoting ourselves. So it's kind of that whole shared responsibility between marketing and helping other businesses out too. And then we do sell to, we've sold to 4 co-ops throughout our lifetime as a business. So we sell to the Good Earth Food Co-op, Elk River, we're a producer for them, City Center Market in Cambridge, and then Harvest Moon down in Orono.
Okay.
So that's another segment that's really important for us too, because we want that keeping it local mentality as well.
For sure. So with regard to there's always this, especially with animal products, but food quality is a huge thing. It's a huge thing in talking about it with people for what I do and work with people and how that's just so important for getting their nutrient statuses up and help to minimize or reduce or eliminate symptoms. So what is the quality difference in someone like you and your farm and the way that you raise your animals, the way you feed your animals compared to the commercial side of things?
So if you think about it, a lot of the animals we raise were meant to forage, and we try to keep them pastured as much as possible. Winter gets a little tricky because we have to kind of confine them anyway to a smaller space just to take care of them. But if you look at hogs, for example, they love nuts. They love foraging through and getting grubs and whatever else they can find in the dirt. So that's why they burrow so much. They love bark from bushes and trees, and so they're used to foraging. Same with cattle. They'll go up and they'll lick our maple trees. They'll go through and rub on the pine trees and eat the sap. And so that's something that I think differentiates a farm versus having that conventional factory farmer, because the animals are all enclosed. They're getting a completely grain-fed diet. Whereas with us, we feed things like, we work with our restaurants and we get veggie scraps and fruit scraps, and sometimes they get pancakes left over from brunch. Sometimes they get, just some of those other, what we would call processed foods, but there's still a grain base for them. And then with our cattle, we've actually really connected really well with 2 local breweries. So we work with Lupulin and Ayer in Elk River, and we get their spent grain, and we then feed that as a supplementary food source to all of our animals. Actually, our ducks and turkey and chickens are getting that. It's got a great protein level. It's got vitamins and minerals in it that they need. And so we look at that, and instead of giving 100% corn, or we've done, we don't just do crack corn. We do things that have beet pulp and oats and barley and those sort of things. So they're not completely soy based or corn based.
Right.
And so I think that differentiates us, because we're trying to give them a well-rounded diet. It actually helps our heifers when they're lactating and having babies. It gives them a better protein level, and they're healthier. When we have a vet come out and say, wow, these look really great, you can tell that they're well fed. Well, they're getting those spent grains. They're getting all those other supplemental feed sources that a more factory farm or even a stockyard is giving.
Right.
So, and then too, for us, like stockyard versus farm, how we're raising, pasture raising, they're not confined to small spaces. We're not forcing 35 head of cattle within a 5-acre parcel. We do rotational grazing. So they're getting a lot of different areas to go eat. They're not locked in, which is really...
you have a lot of land out there where people can, or with people, the cows, the people can roam too, I guess. But it's that speaks to the, I look at it too with what people consume, the quality of the food that they consume, you are what you eat kind of thing. And just not having that confined space and the stress that animals are put under. And if they're put into an environment that's natural for them, that's lower stress in the product, in the end product. Yep. And so it's just like a, full circle. Exactly. And then the other thing, the sustainability of working with the breweries and their waste is, beneficial and healthy for your product. So that's really a good thing too. I love that.
It is. And we were, it saddens me too, because we've talked to other breweries throughout the state, because we're trying to find a way to develop some sort of a co-op. It's like a whole other discussion, but try to do some kind of a co-op between other farmers. So we go and we pick up at least a ton of spent grain from Lupulin. And if we didn't get it, it would go into the landfill. Yeah. It would sit there and rot. It composts. However, if it's a viable food source, we might as well use that.
Right.
And so with working and talking with other breweries in the cities, they can't get farmers to come in with their trailers and pick up, they need these big totes, and they have to forklift them, and they're heavy, and it can be a lot of work, but they're going in the garbage. And so for us, it's like, well, if we can keep that 1 ton of byproduct out of the landfill and use it as a food source, it's so beneficial. Right. And, it's helping us to save quite a bit in feed costs. But we're actually working and partnering with 2 or 3 other farmers to dispense the product. So if we have enough for the week, we partner with another farmer and they go and they pick up or they pick it up at the farm from us, or we split the duty. So
that's great.
It's really rewarding.
Yeah, that's really good. So the other thing I was going to ask you about was the barn itself. So you have a project going on with that, right?
We do. Yeah. When we first started, we're like, oh, this is going to be great. We'll be able to raise livestock in here and store hay. And so for 2 years, we stacked hay. We have our own hay fields. So we were putting small squares in there. And about a year and a half ago, we were approached by Rockwoods and Otsego to be a secondary event location for them. And all of this came from selling microgreens to them. But now we're in the midst of, we have to kind of rework things a little bit here on the farm. So we can't raise livestock in there anymore because it's going to be a commercial building. So our barn was built in 1939. So it's a heritage barn, and we have to do some work to it. We have to replace the concrete floor and put in new hayloft floor and put staircase in, and of course make it ADA accessible. And there's a lot of steps to make, but we're really, really excited to now be the first event location in Sherburne County on general rural agricultural land. So
that's so cool. And I love the big old classic red barn.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. It was a bonus when we found the property. So
yeah, that's so cool.
we've worked really hard to, take care of that and preserve it. And because that's also something really important for us, is to be able to share and educate the next generation coming up and showing them where their food's coming from, and bringing the Boy Scouts and bringing the school district here and working with Master Gardeners program and having them out here to help us with so many different projects, and just showing that this is a part of our agricultural history. It's part of Minnesota. We don't want that to fall. Every year there are 1,300 barns that fall in the state of Minnesota. So if there's a way for us to protect that heritage, we want to do what we can. So
that's a huge number. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's a high number. It's really sad when you think about it, that we're losing that many, but it's very expensive to keep these buildings and structures up. And it's, the number is shocking, but.
Wow. Well, going back to the product that you provide a little bit more. So going to the quality of it. So with the protein, with like the beef or the chicken, we talked about what you feed them and how that's different from some of the other ways that when you go to the grocery store and buy commercial type of products. So with regard to like protein content and like fatty acid content and things like that, do you have any information on that for the stuff that you grow, or do you have general ideas?
I don't. A lot of it ties back to some of the data that's already out there, so I can post some things on our Facebook page for people to look at. But like the fat content, we raise a very lean product. So we are more in that 80-20. We're not purely grass fed, so we do get a little bit higher fat content on our products, and those omega fatty acids, all that stuff is prime grade. When you get into comparing our product to something that you would get, we call it the pink sludge, or even some of the chicken that's on the market, they're full of fat. They aren't raised on a varied diet, so they're consuming a lot higher fat content in their feed, and they're not working it off, so they're not getting outside, they're not getting the exercise. And so it's kind of like us, the more we're active, the leaner we are. And so for us with our product, we do have to have a certain marbling that our restaurants like to use. So when it comes to our beef, that's why we're not strictly grass fed. And that's why we have the ticker. We're pasture raising, but then we're supplementing on grains. And I get some people go, "Oh my gosh, you're feeding them grain." I said, "Well, they need that for their diet. They need to have a certain level of protein and minerals, just like us. And it's, our dogs are fed very well. The Americans spoil their dogs.
Yeah.
And so we're no different. We give them a varied diet, and that's what helps keep those counts at the better scale, I guess, rather than you have your different prime grades of meat, and we're going to be more at the high end just because of the labor and intensity and food quality that we're feeding them to.
Right. Well, and just to contrast, just from, this is more generalization, but for a product like what you are providing for people versus more the commercial raised types of animal products, they're fed that really highly acidic corn fed or soy fed diet. And so they're just more acidic in nature because their fatty acid content is higher in omega-6s, which are the more inflammatory and more of a pasture raised, grass-fed, less stressed type of animal is going to have a higher content of omega-3 fatty acids, which are the anti-inflammatory. So that's just kind of how I would summarize the difference.
Yep.
So I don't, if that holds true for what you know too about what you do.
Yep.
So
exactly.
So that's why. So, with better quality, of course, there's a little bit higher price tag, but, it's a long-term thing and how it affects your health. And so, just like when I talk with people about foods and supplements too, quality counts and, cheaper is not better.
Right. Yeah.
in many ways, once you start eating more pasture raised or grass-fed type products, you're going to taste the difference, and it's a big difference. So.
Yep. And we don't do antibiotics unless it's absolutely necessary. And that the only time we administer any antibiotic is if it's something we have a cow, it's sick, has maybe they get pink eye, they get, all these other things. And it's in order to save the herd. The last thing we want is for that to pass on. But do we butcher that cow with the penicillin in their body? No.
Right.
We have a cycle that we go through. That cow wouldn't go in for butchering probably 60 days beyond that. So it's completely out of its system. We don't do hormone injections. That's actually illegal in the United States. So if we did that, we would be fined hugely. And, none of the big commercial farmers are doing that. So there's a lot of information that's out there that isn't tried and true to what we're doing in the States as farmers. Another thing is it's really interesting too to see as far as price comparisons when you're thinking about buying straight to the farmer. So for example, we sell our chicken at $4 a pound. And that is, where the chicken is coming from. You can come here, you can see it, you can touch it. We tell where we get things butchered. We go to Nelson Shine up in Brainerd. They're another family farmer. They're really great people. And there are some plants that they literally do everything there. They do the butchering, they raise the chickens. But then there's some outfits that they pay the farmer pennies on the dollar for their product and turn around and sell it for a high premium.
Right.
And so that kind of cycle, it can kind of hurt the farmer. So it's one of those things where we take great pride in saying, this is our pricing. This is where we're at. Where it's coming from. You're not getting meat from Walmart where you don't know what farm it's coming from.
Right.
Sometimes it's imported. So those are some things too that we try and keep it real here as much as we can.
And clearly the cost of getting really good quality products isn't hurting you. You're still, or you're getting busier and busier and growing. So
we are. Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, we sell our beef for $5.25 a pound. That's bulk pricing. So a quarter of a cow for a family of 4 will last you through the, at least 6 to 8 months, depending on how much of a red meat eater you are. And it's $1,200 for the quarter. So whereas when you're actually going to the grocery store and you're weekly, purchasing that meat every week, you're spending at least 3 to 5 times more the amount of money on that same quantity.
Right.
So it's kind of educating that end user, that customer of this is a huge cost savings. It's saving you money by buying bulk if you can afford it, or we can do cuts too. We sell steaks, we sell burger when we have it in stock, and same with chicken breasts and chicken thighs. And but it's amazing how much more you're actually spending by going to a grocer, or even some of the, I won't say names, but the meat markets that are out there. And a lot of the local meat markets are very supportive of local farms. So if you go to like Thielen Meats or Pierce or even McDonald's or Foley Locker, they all support all of us. That's sometimes nice. You need to unload and you don't have a consumer base for it. And so you're helping them provide. And that's why you pay a top premium at the butcher. So, but we're a very similar process. So,
so with regard to, let's talk about eggs. Like, I love the eggs that I get from you. I love that I can put them in a cute bowl on my counter and I don't have to put them in the refrigerator and take, that whole thing. So can you talk about the eggs? And like, it's ingrained in us that we need to put them in the fridge and they'll get rotten and they'll, that kind of thing. So can you talk about that?
Well, if you think about third world countries, they don't have refrigerators. And so they let their eggs sit out for a week or two on end. And the egg actually has a protective coating on the outside of it. So eggs are porous. If you take that protective coating off, things will start, with bleach or some kind of solution that they wash in the commercial farms. We aren't, by the state of Minnesota, we're not able to apply any of that to our eggs. We fall under an exemption title. So we can't use any kind of commercial cleaners or anything like that to clean our eggs or sanitize them. Nor do we want to, because that coating, after the chicken lays the egg, there's that coating. It helps protect from anything penetrating through the egg. Once that's removed, that's where if you run it under water, it'll start leaching. So, so for us, what we do is we lightly buff them off with sandpaper or steel wool, and we try not to take any of that coating off so it's protected. But then that way too, the air is not penetrating. So that way your egg has a longer shelf life. So we keep our eggs out on our counter up to a week and a half, 2 weeks, and they're just fine. In 5 years, we haven't had salmonella. So
that's a good thing.
And it's actually better for you. So by not refrigerating them.
Well, and you can see too, when you crack open the egg, the yolk is almost kind of orange. Like that. And that just, to me, I think of the nutrition in the color, and the omegas are much, better in that egg yolk and stuff, the good fats that are in that yolk, compared to, again, the commercial, going back to the commercial.
The white egg. The classic white egg that we're all used to eating.
Exactly. And then one other thing, probably, this is something I'm sure you get asked this all the time. Like, why aren't you organic, or why don't you do organic, or what's the process? And I know it's a big process to do it. I know there's like a time frame. It's really expensive. Are things actually ever really all organic? There's animals, there's wind, all that stuff. So tell us about that process. And
so we chose not to be organic. We talked about going through the organic process. It's extremely costly. So for us to certify our farm to be organic, it would cost us at least $10,000. You have to go through inspection, which is fine, and you pay for that. That's what you're paying for. You're paying for that label. You're paying for that. But for us, we're already doing natural and sustainable ways of raising our animals. So as long as I think we have that relationship with our buying customer, I don't think we really need to go through the process. We have some areas on our farm that would not be protected very well if we chose to go organic. So the minute the farmer to the north of us, he has a commercial cornfield, he sprays that, we have the likelihood of that. We don't have a buffer. So that wind would blow everything over, and we would potentially have a risk of losing that organic certification. We've talked about doing it with our microgreens, but we're already ordering organic seed. We have organic peat moss and vermiculite that we're using as a medium, and then we add water. So those are the three things that we're using in that product. So
you just can't use the label for it, but you're doing everything.
Yep.
Yeah. You have to pay for the label.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And sometimes with some organic products, they'll have just a few ingredients that are organic and the rest of it isn't. So I think for us, just saying we get our feed locally, we're going to, we go to Marty's, we get our feed from them. Do they spray or do they use chemically treated corn? They do, but it's to keep weeds away. So it's not, but then we do things to help kind of combat that. So we have a beekeeper out here. We have someone raising bees on our property. So we're adding to that population. We're planting legumes out here. So they're pollinating, and we live by prairie restoration. So we have a lot of cross-pollinating that we're doing. We planted apple trees. So we're thinking of these different ways that we can help combat that. And bring
circle.
Exactly. So we just choose to raise natural and sustainable. And then we also have where we're trying to get a water certification for our farm. So we can't dump our manure in a certain area. We have to make sure that we don't have runoff or erosion or any of those things. So we're working with the USDA on that. So there's a lot of great ways to still stay natural versus organic. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else to add, and I can't think of anything. But.
Well, I want to talk about the water thing in a second, but just want to put out there, okay, everybody, again, this is Carla Mertz with Iron Shoe Farm, local farm, raises all kinds of animal products like beef and chicken and pork and eggs. But if you have any questions, anybody watching the replay, let us know if you're watching the replay, and then also let us know if you have any questions. And, if Carla doesn't see it, I'll tag her. If I don't see it, she'll tag me. We'll try to answer questions for you or for you, any questions you have. But with the water certification, let's go back to that. What does that mean, or what does that and what's your purpose for that? And what's your goal with it?
So what that means is that we actually care about our waterways that are going through a property. So we actually live on a very large drainage ditch system, and that empties into Elk Lake in Elk River, and actually more Zimmerman, and then it goes into the Mississippi. So we also have wetlands on our property. So we need to ensure that the waste that we have from our property, whether it's manure from our cattle, chickens, however we need to dispose of that, isn't getting into the water system. So we go through a certification with the USDA that tells us that we've met the criteria. We have a manure spreading package that we came up with saying, here's how we're going to dispense of our manure. We actually have customers come and bag it up and take it home and put it in their garden, or we spread it on our fields, but we keep it away from that water source. And there are other farmers that they have filtration, and they have holding tanks and things of that nature. We're not at that capacity, but they go through a lot deeper criterion that they have to meet to get that certification. So for us, it's been about a year process. So it takes some time to get those things, but it's something that's on our list. We just want to make sure that we're not contributing to a problem and keeping the waterway clean that we live around.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen that in kind of recent history with E. coli outbreaks with, lettuce, and now this recent couple bouts of it with romaine lettuce and E. coli, which comes from the type of stuff you're talking about from your farm. So, so that's really important to do that. So all these things are just so important for people to know when they're sourcing their foods, and knowing that even though someone isn't, can't use the label organic, that you're doing all of these things to provide really good quality food, and it's sustainable and it's local. It just, you can get into the whole thing about the the carbon blueprint, the footprint that we put out there with, transporting foods and getting our tomatoes from California, and it's, how many weeks later, and the quality of the food diminishes, and the gas it takes to drive it and all that kind of stuff. It just goes on and on. So, I mean, this is just a really, really phenomenal setup. I just love the stuff that I've gotten from you. Like my favorite is the microgreens. I think that's the coolest thing. And it was totally just like, hey, let's just try it. And it's been phenomenal for your business, and it's just steamrolled from that. So, do you have anything else you want to talk about or touch on, or?
Well, I think like for now we've got, just to talk about some of our products, we have actually a Christmas special that we're doing. So we have a sampler pack that's $50. So it's a really reasonable product category, great for gifting. We have a lot of customers come to us and get these usually during the holidays. So we have things like whole chicken will be in there, steak package. There will be, I'm trying to think off the cusp, it's getting late. We'll have ground beef in there. We'll have some pork products in there too. So it's just kind of a small get to know us, who we are, and try the product type of a thing. I do have full freezer full of chicken that I just picked up from the butcher. So we do have whole chickens available. And we do things throughout the season where we have necks and backs for bone broth. It's cold and flu season. So those are, or if you're on keto diet, or, some of these things that you just need those extra nutrients in your system or to fight a flu. So we do beef bones on occasion. We'll get into chicken hearts and liver, and some people like that because they actually have a high protein count. And we do some of those oddities too. So we'll do beef tongue, heart, liver, and some people are like, look, but there's a reason for them. Some people really like it. And so we try to do some of those things for not only our chefs, but our direct to consumer contact too. So we also, we have a full freezer of beef. So we have different cuts. So we've got roast, different variety of steaks, you name it. We pretty much have it in stock right now.
So how do people get a hold of you?
So they can message us through Facebook. We also have our email address, which is posted on our Facebook page. It's info@ironshoefarm.com. So very short and sweet. Or they can call. So you can go right onto our website. There's actually a form you can fill out there with any questions. And then I just encourage people, if they really want to come and visit the farm and take a tour, we are happy to do that anytime.
Yeah, it's so fun.
So, yeah,
it's a great place.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, so I might be opening up maybe too many doors, wondering, if someone from my hometown area needed some, do you ship? I know that there's costs that incur that, but do you ship to anybody? Have you gotten into that yet?
We haven't really done any cross-line shipping, but we've had customers that have bought from us and then they themselves have shipped it off to their parents or family members. So we have had people do that. I don't know that we're really getting into that business market right now, but
I wasn't sure if I should ask.
We can see what we can do. I don't know what the legalities are and that, to be honest.
I'm thinking like, what do you call it? The dry ice and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure it's not a simple thing, but just curious, because I have a feeling people would ask about that if you send.
And we've had a couple people ask, and I'm like, I don't know how long it's gonna, be food safe. So
exactly.
And I don't know if our food handler license would cover that.
Okay.
So, yeah. It might be a whole other gamut. Phase 2.
Not now. Yeah. Let's just wait on that. All right. Well, I can't see anything right now, but if people have questions, we'll get back to them. And then if you want to add any links in or anything like that too, I can put some of the links that I have in the comments for this video so people can access and check you out and see what's going on.
Awesome.
Yeah. So Nancy says, thank you. Great to hear about your business. So
thanks.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll get some people on the replay. And like I said, if you are in the replay, go ahead and say hi and ask questions and we'll get back to you.
Definitely.
But anyway, thank you so much for being on. It's good information. I love the concept and what you're doing with your farm. It's awesome.
Thanks
And
for
for the
inviting me.
Well, yeah. All right. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
Yep.
Bye.